I know I'm in the minority when I say this, but I loved Pokémon Scarlet and Violet. They have genuinely been my favorite Pokémon games since Black and White 2, and they're what brought my interest to Pokémon back after losing a lot of interest from Sword and Shield. You're totally free to disagree with me, but just know that Scarlet and Violet are the reason that I started posting videos on this channel in the first place. With Legends ZA now out and Champions right around the corner, the era of Scarlet and Violet is coming to an end. So I thought it would be fun to highlight some of the best features of Scarlet and Violet, some things that need improvement, and towards the end, some updates on the direction I want to take the content of this channel going forward. Scarlet and Violet broke the trend of needing to defeat gyms in a specific order since the game is an open world. The three storylines of Victory Road, Starfall Street, and the Path of Legends can essentially be completed in any order you want, and you're allowed to roam freely with your Koraidon or Miraidon, gaining new powers along the way like a Metroidvania. Previous games were much more linear in this sense, and there were so many BS roadblocks in the player's way that are obviously just there to stop you from going off the path that the game wants you to go. Now, Scarlet and Violet were still far from flawless in their execution, as there are absolutely still some roadblocks, and levels didn't scale with the player's levels, so you'd potentially have your level 10 Sprigatito going up against a level 47 Satitan, or your level 50 Meowscarada going up against a level 15 Teddiursa. Still though, the fact that Game Freak was willing to make this change at all was one of the great innovations about Scarlet and Violet. An open world also means encounters are done almost exclusively in the overworld, making your Pokemon and wild Pokemon feel much more immersed into the game. This comes at the cost of no longer having things like a fishing rod, and a lot of abilities with overworld effects like Cute Charm and Compound Eyes don't do anything outside of battle anymore, as some of them just don't work super well in an open world. Or Game Freak was just too lazy to adjust their effects to be more applicable to an open world. It does make shiny hunting easier than ever, with a level 3 Sparkling Power Sandwich, the Shiny Charm, and Outbreaks potentially boosting your shiny chance all the way to 1 in 512, making one 30-minute sandwich basically a guaranteed chance of getting at least one shiny. I know for me, this is the first game that I've even bothered with shiny hunting at all, since it's become significantly more accessible. Speaking of accessibility, Scarlet and Violet has so many convenience and quality of life features that make it hard to go back and play an old game without them. You can access your box, remember moves, forget moves, and teach moves from anywhere for free. You can fast travel fly to any point you've unlocked whenever you want, and with the DLC, you can fly on your Koraidon or Miraidon to any place that doesn't have a fast travel point. You can pass egg moves with the Mirror Herb so that Pokemon you've already caught can still learn those moves. Pokemon only need to be at level 50 for Hyper Training instead of level 100. Bottle caps, nature mints, vitamins, competitive held items, and ability capsules can be bought with regular Pokédollars or LP instead of some other in-game currency that you have to grind for. Ability patches can change a hidden ability to a regular ability where it couldn't previously. And EXP candies for leveling up your Pokemon have never been easier to obtain with things like event raids in the item printer. The downsides are that TMs are no longer infinite use but rather single use, but they're so easy to make that it's not really that big of a deal, and you can't reduce or change IVs except for bringing them up to 31 by Hyper Training, which is quite a big deal and the main thing that Game Freak really dropped the ball on for Scarlet and Violet. If your Pokemon doesn't need any 0 IVs, or you're fine with playing with slightly less than ideal Pokemon, pretty much any Pokemon can be made to be perfect with the tools we now have access to in Scarlet and Violet. Scarlet and Violet gave us 7 new dual typings: Bug Dark with Low-Kicks, Normal Poison with Strudel and Grafaiai, Fire Grass with Scovillain and Ogerpon Hearthflame, Electric Fighting with Pomo, Pawmot, and Iron Hands, Fighting Ground with Great Tusk, Fighting Fairy with Iron Valiant, and Poison Steel with Varoom and Revavroom. This only leaves these 9 unused typings out of the 153 total possible. Terastallization is the overall best gimmick this series has ever seen. Megas are only given to some Pokemon, and they vary significantly in their power level, with some being absolute staples to a team and others being worse than their original forms. Z moves turn regular moves into one-hit KO buttons. Dynamax turns regular moves into one-hit KO buttons, or it gives them broken secondary effects. Terastallization is something that every Pokemon can do, doesn't depend on an item, can be used offensively or defensively, and it doesn't grant such a significant boost in power that it allows a Pokemon to completely run away with a game on its own. Even Terapagos, the only Pokemon that has a boost to its base stats when it Terastallizes. Speaking of Terapagos, the Pokemon from the Scarlet and Violet DLC were balanced infinitely better than the Sword and Shield DLC. The Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra DLC expansion passes of Sword and Shield introduced two of the most absurd and unbalanced legendary Pokemon ever created that still baffle players to this day, Urshifu and Calyrex. You've heard about them a million times before, so I'll make it quick. Urshifu hits through Protect, always crits with its signature move, has priority in both of its forms, and can't be distinguished between its forms in the team preview. The Calyrex riders have some of the best stats in the entire game, two abilities at the same time that can't be nullified or overridden, signature moves with higher power and more accuracy than any of the strongest common moves in the game with no drawback, all without their item slot needing to be taken up because they change form with a key item. The Teal Mask and Indigo Disc DLC expansion passes of Scarlet and Violet introduced two very well-balanced legendary Pokemon that have been great additions to the competitive scene, Ogerpon and Terapagos. Ogerpon has no single stat over 120, it has to hold an item to enter into one of its three alternate forms, none of its abilities allow it to break the fundamental rules of the game, and its signature move has a high critical hit ratio, not a guaranteed chance. It gets a new ability when it Terastallizes, but is locked into the Tera type of its current form, and can't get back its original ability for the rest of the battle. Terapagos has the stats of a pseudo-legendary, and is only slightly stronger than a typical restricted legendary once it Terastallizes. It maintains the mono normal typing and is locked into being a stellar Tera type, where its single target normal move Tera Starstorm will become a spread damaging stellar move. It has to Terastallize to gain access to its strongest form. Its abilities Tera Shell and Terraform Zero can be nullified or overridden. Its speed is okay, and its special attack is good, but not anything crazy. The first DLC has the Ogre Ousting minigame, a fun way to get rare item drops that can be done by yourself or with your friends, if you have any. The second DLC has the Flying Time Trial minigame, which was a great way to introduce the new Fly feature, as well as barbecue Blueberry quests to gain Blueberry points. Blueberry quests are great since they are just easy enough to consistently be able to do one after the other without too much trouble, but just hard enough that completing them still feels satisfying and like you've earned something, leading you to want to do more. Like Ogre Oustin, these can be done by yourself or with friends thanks to the Union Circle feature, and gaining these points can pretty easily be turned into money via the item printer. This DLC also introduced Synchro Mode, which is one of the funniest features in the game that you can't deny is absolute peak game design. What's even funnier was the Mochi Mayhem episode after the DLC, where it was revealed that Petarant was the one behind the doing of the Loyal 3. Tera Raids were annoying, grindy, and buggy at first, but as more Pokemon were released, players developed better strategies, and event raids gave significantly better drops. They became more like fun puzzles to solve that could be repeated to maximize loot, something else that could be done by yourself or with friends. I loved hearing about the next 7-star raid, and the Mewtwo raid was especially fun with how strategic you had to be to defeat it. The official online ranked battling system's regulations progressively adding more and more usable Pokemon to the mix made for such fun metagames, and I looked forward to every few months where the pool of usable Pokemon changed, allowing for more options and more variety. Reg H was a little bit of a curveball, but in a good way, where it subtracted usable Pokemon, which was and continues to be a fan favorite format with weaker Pokemon finally having their chance to shine. Did the frame rate of Switch 1 Scarlet and Violet absolutely suck? Yes, and it's kind of painful looking back at Switch 1 footage after being so used to the Switch 2. Were some of the bugs so bad that it made the game borderline unplayable at times? Yes, although they were still funny. Was the distribution of certain event Pokemon like Walking Wake Iron Leaves and Shiny Koraidon Miraidon done very poorly? Yes, and I'm still salty that my local GameStop just recently closed down. Did these games abandon a lot of beloved features that previous games had? Yes, and we may never get some of them back. Scarlet and Violet were by no means perfect games, but the wide variety of new Pokemon introduced, increased accessibility that reduced the barrier of entry to new players, innovation of the world being open with overworld encounters, ability to do side quests that gave useful drops by yourself or with friends, and the overall vibe of a new era of Pokemon made my experience with Scarlet and Violet something I will never forget. Thanks everyone for watching this little bit of a different video than normal. I'd like to take this opportunity to discuss some of the content you should expect going forward now that Scarlet and Violet is basically over. I make my videos way in advance because I always want to have something to post consistently, so I have quite a few Scarlet and Violet focused videos that I still haven't posted. I actually did have enough to be able to post last week, but I wanted to make this video first because I felt kind of weird posting about SV right after ZA came out. I'm gonna go ahead and still post these videos, but I do plan to eventually make ZA content and will be making more general Pokemon content as well going forward, since there's really not a lot left to talk about in SV. Some of these videos though, I never really got around to fully editing, or they just weren't that great of ideas, so I'll be posting some of them on my second channel. The move and ability graphics that I use in my videos are custom made by me based off how they look in Scarlet and Violet, and I've also adapted that to the item and type effectiveness graphics that I use. I'm gonna keep using these until Champions comes out, and will then make custom Champions graphics that I will be using in all my videos going forward, since I assume that Champions is more the type of game that my channel's content is focused on, and that you, the viewer, came here to see, and Champions has much more competitive oriented descriptions, as I mentioned in my Unwritten Pokemon Mechanics video. Relating back to the topic of this video, please leave any of your favorite features of Scarlet and Violet that I missed in the comments, or just a nice comment since I do read all comments. If you want to support me even further, you can also become a member for 99 US cents a month to get a badge next to your name and early video access like all of these lovely people. If you want bonus content, check out my second channel Extra Bell, where I post videos I've scrapped from the main channel, as well as more casual, unscripted videos. Likes are also one of the ways that YouTube determines if a video should be passed around to more people, so if you feel that this video deserves to be, I would appreciate it. Thanks for watching.